Hello, Play for Performance. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so excited to have our guest. Liz Lathan is the CEO of Club Ichi with over 25 years of experience in marketing, PR, and event management. Liz has led global event teams at industry leaders like Dell and IBM. In 2011, she achieved a significant milestone by creating Dell's annual technology conference, Dell World. As a founding member of the experiential agency HALT and co-founder of Club Ichi in 2023, Liz has consistently demonstrated her ability to drive engagement and foster strong communities. Beyond her professional achievements, Liz balances her career with being a dedicated mom to two wonderful children. Today, we'll explore topics such as the power of community, driving engagement in events, and how event professionals can create inclusive spaces. Please welcome me in joining Liz. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me here. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. I love your posts. Wouldn't it be fun if, because we've all, at least I in my time, have been to those events where the people are just sitting at the table, don't seem engaged, don't seem to be having fun, and you kind of have to make the rounds because it's why you're there, is to meet the vendors and do the thing, but nobody really, so tell me about your story. How did you, obviously I've read it, but I would love for you to tell our guests today about your story and how you got to Club Ichi.
I think it's mostly just growing up in events. So I always had an interest in events, never really knowing that was a career or anything like that. My mom, for a brief time, repped for a merchandise, like a gifting company. And so when I was a kid, I would go with her to set up the trade show booth, and they would sell these Christmas ornaments to gift shops at the Atlanta Merchandise Mart. And so I was kind of around this trade show thing and around these events, and I didn't recognize it. My dad, meanwhile, would travel the world for his business, and we would get to go in the summertime to visit his coworkers in other countries, and this feeling of hospitality that we got, because back then there was no such thing as Airbnb. You were either at a hotel or at a friend's house, and mostly we were at a friend's house. And so that was kind of where I got this idea of hospitality and belonging no matter where you are. And it was kind of instilled in me, juxtaposed with being an only child where I never fit anywhere, right? The kids were talking about stupid stuff. The adults were talking about stuff I didn't understand. So it was always kind of in between. So when I just moved I went with journalism, because what I really loved, it was the storytelling and the digging into things. I wanted to be an engineer, but I didn't quite have the calculus to do that. But it was just that mind of liking to see how things work. And so journalism was really my creative outlet to understand the same thing engineers did, which was figure out how it works and retell that story. And so I loved that. And that got me into PR, media relations. But as a part of that are these events. And who knew that was a whole thing? So I had been doing them as part of marketing and PR without understanding it was a profession. So then finally getting into that in the association and corporate world, I really started to understand that it's a vehicle for marketing, for driving pipeline, for driving revenue. But how do you create those connections to drive pipeline and revenue if it's just three dudes standing in a booth hoping to scan your badge? That's not a way to engage people. Or if you're creating conferences that are just formulaic, keynote, breakout, expo, why would people come back? And so for me, over the course of 20 plus years, it was really, how do you craft an experience that makes the people feel like they belong, that has a sense of hospitality, and that keeps them, basically, that's more interesting than their cell phone, because that's the challenge we live with today. So after that whole career in corporate and then agency, it was really, again, my need for belonging and going, who could I have turned to in those times? There just wasn't really a community for that. There's associations that teach you things, you can get certifications, but just a place to go to be like, I have a question, who can I ask? It didn't exist. And so Club Ichi was really born out of that necessity of bringing people like me together to help each other and just solve problems and answer questions and commiserate and vent and do the things that you want to do.
That's amazing and so exciting. I did a stint as a customer, I think my title was probably customer marketing manager, and when I was with a voice over IP company. And my role kind of was, I was in charge of the referral partner program, and it kind of evolved to where I got to go do shows, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, right. I love the energy. Well, your events would have been way better, but to be there and to be talking to people, I am with you. Like, I feel the energy and the want to be part of a group and to have that hospitality that everybody's, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So And I'm so glad you didn't like calculus, because we probably wouldn't be talking today. So I'm very grateful. Yay, no calculus. So you started your event planning things, and you led, like, Dell World is not a small deal. Like, Dell World is
that was a
huge.
fun one. Yeah, it was. It was one of those things where in the times, like around 2010 or whatever, like Dreamforce was really growing really big, and everybody had their own kind of world experience. And for us at Dell at the time, we didn't. We had people that bought computers, but all of these other ones they were user conferences. There was a reason for people to come together because they were learning and growing and all these things. And so we had struggled a little bit to figure out, like, what's the reason. And then through some acquisitions and bringing in some other companies, that the time was finally right for us to have a place where people could come and see our entire breadth and depth of offerings. And so it just, how executive questions and churns, and is this going to happen or whatever happens, when we finally got the green light, it was 86 days from the moment we were told it's a go to the moment the date had been available at the convention center. And so we created an entire event from complete scratch in 86 days. So it was definitely a testament to my leadership, meaning the people that I reported to, who supported all of us in knowing, like, we got to figure this out. Very few of us had ever done a large scale event like that before. We had, been part of them and participated. We'd done our own internal sales conferences that were that big, but for a customer conference, it was kind of a new muscle that we had to build. It was really fun.
And I can imagine
we all are nostalgic to that experience, trauma bonding.
I love it. Yeah. Well, trauma bonding, right? And I can imagine there being so much more pressure on you, being that it was a customer event versus just internal, because those are the people that are paying our salaries, and they're the people that are buying our product and telling other people about the product. And that's huge. That's congratulations.
Well, and then the sticker shock of the budget of something like that, because we traditionally had not actually worked with big mega agencies to produce an event. And so for us to put something like this on that had to be kind of pixel perfect and really have that knowledge that an agency could bring in, and seeing what agencies cost was kind of a new thing for us. And so it was definitely a whole learning exercise. It was the most amazing time of my life, I think.
That is so awesome. And so what motivated you then to co-found Club Ichi with Nicole, and what do people do with Club Ichi? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that experience, I was at Dell for 10 or so years. It was really having that moment of, we've got to create an event. We have 86 days. I only have the people around me to figure this out. I didn't know who to reach out to for help and advice and guidance. And basically the agency was the only one to lean on, and I'm paying them for their support. But having a friend to commiserate with, that just didn't exist. And so I did have, through my industry associations, a network of people that I could text and ask questions to and all that, but it was a very different experience. And so when I left corporate back in 2018, and we had created the experiential agency with a group of friends, kind of built that out, we had this event that my current co-founder and I had created that was an experience more than an event. It was like kind of all coffee break. It was this unconference style of, instead of putting people in a dark room and forcing them to listen to expertise from the stage, let's bring people together and ask, what challenges are you trying to solve? And then who in the room has solved those before? And so we crafted this experience around that, and it became just a series of events that we did. And we'd even do them for clients. They'd invite us to come in and run these. They're now called spontaneous think tanks. We would run those for them. And so when we left the agency, all of the people who had come to those kept pushing us to, like, where did the community go? And we kind of said, what community? What you talking about? They're like, all those events you did. They were just events. It wasn't a community. And they're like, no, that was a community. I bought the shirt. I was like, oh, okay. So they encouraged us to create and codify, like, the actual community. And we were trying to figure out the name, what this could be called. And I had come across this Japanese phrase, Ichigo Ichi-e, which means one moment, one time. And that's what we try to create with these events, right? It's that one uncapturable moment that people will talk about, unrecapturable, that they'll talk about forever and ever. And so Ichi, meaning one, was the name we chose. And we stuck club in front of it so that it was kind of grounding, right? It's because otherwise, if you Google it, you'll find a million Japanese restaurants. So it's Club Ichi. And it is the place where we can all come together, because rising tides lift all ships, and we are here to be one, to help each other.
I love that. Rising tides lift all ships. I'm going to have to save that for future reference. I spoke to someone the other day that it was a new connection for me, and we were talking, and his product is something that would go great with you and what you guys do and what I've seen you do on LinkedIn. And so I told him, I want to introduce you to Liz. She's awesome. He's like, I know Liz. Like, we go way back, and I've been to her unconference, and it's amazing. And just was boasting about how wonderful it is. So I'll have to definitely sign up for your next one because that sounds awesome.
Yes. Well, coming up, I don't know when this is airing, but in June in Nashville, June 9th and 10th is our next in person. But we're going to do another one in December. So keep an eye out.
I absolutely will. So primary goals for Club Ichi in the next 5 years. What are y'all looking forward to doing?
It's not one of those things where it's like grow. We got to be as big as we possibly can to get $1 billion valuation. It's really planned growth. We're at about 425 insiders right now, and we've got a series of strategic partners that kind of help us basically pay the bills and keep the lights on and then support these members that are a part of it. So I think by the end of this year, we would love to see us at 1,000 paid members. But I don't know how much larger we really need to get with that inner circle. I think it's really more about what can we bring to other people and then engaging that inner circle in the ways that they want to engage. So we've got some plans for these spontaneous think tanks that we do to turn quarterly and start doing those across the country, once a quarter. We do this big crazy trip that's coming up in April, May of next year called the Secret Family Reunion. Because when people leave our events, they always say, just feel like I have this new family that I never knew I needed or existed in the world. So Secret Family Reunion is this event that feels like a family reunion, but it's a secret because we don't tell you where you're going till you get to the airport. So you buy a ticket, we will tell you how to pack, and then we will get all the details that we need from you. And then when you show up with the group, we do a big giant reveal party and whisk you away. So the last time we did it back in 2019 before COVID. Since then, people needed to know what country they were going to, whatever. But that one, we invited 80 experiential marketers to meet us at JFK in New York, bring a passport and pack for 6 days. And then we revealed that we had chartered a plane and took them to Tuscany for the 6-day spontaneous think tank truffle hunting pasta making extravaganza.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How fun. So
it is fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm the type of person that does the Lego bricks by the book. I'm a book person, so that whole spontaneous thing. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. But it
definitely takes a certain kind of person to be willing to get out of their comfort zone, which is why we have different levels of engagement through Club Ichi, because we know, especially in our event world, we're type A, we need everything planned. And to ask me to not know where I'm going and to not know how to pack, that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. So we do these other events. They're called Barefoot Business Retreats, where we do tell you where they are. But when we do, those are, again, at all price levels, right? When we started out, we rented a ranch in Waco, Texas. That was our very first one. But last year we chartered a yacht in Croatia, and all of our conference sessions were held on giant inflatable unicorns. But allowing each year, people to kind of get in at a different price point. And again, it's not intended to be exclusive. It's very much intended to be inclusive. All membership fees are the same. We don't charge suppliers 4 times what they charge brands like the other places do. So,
well, and it's you've earned trust from your cohorts so that they do trust you to show up at JFK with the passport, and they know that they're going to be on an adventure and it's going to be fun. And I mean, that sounds great. I would love that. Would be amazing. I'd love it.
I think the best part about it, though, is truly providing business value and intellectual value from those, because the people that went on that trip, we had a WhatsApp group going that was really just to say, hey, the bus is coming to your villa, but it still goes. They're still wishing each other happy birthday and visiting each other in the hospital when they have a surgery and putting RFPs in there. I'm going to RFP this project, just anyone want on it. And since then, we've heard over $45 million in business has been done among the people on that plane.
That's just
which
amazing.
Is unbelievable.
So talk about your dream of wanting to create a community and a safe place for people to go and be welcomed and loved, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned COVID, obviously with COVID being what it was, and we think we're recovering from that, and then we have other turmoil in the world right now that is what it is. How do you see Club Ichi changing or evolving? Are there any new innovations coming up? Anything different that can address, maybe we're going to be stuck working from home again? What does that look like?
Yeah, we have these conversations all the time in there. So we have a Slack channel that's the always on event hotline. People are asking those questions. Once a month, we do something called a sounding board where a member can submit a question and we all hop on a Zoom and either bring in an expert to talk about it or we just group therapy it together. And so these are some of the things we're talking about. Is virtual going to come back because of tariffs and fears of travel and all of these things? And it's interesting because the internet and the news is telling us that that's the case, but our event agencies are saying, with the exception of like federal events that have pulled back because people can't travel, their clients are saying things are great. They're not pulling back on anything. People are still coming to events. They maybe are adjusting some of their audience acquisition goals, but now they're maybe switching a little bit more to a hybrid experience like they did early on in COVID, but they're finding that that's not what people are necessarily caring about. They want to get with each other in person. People still crave that connection more than ever. And of course, in an age of AI, when you can't tell what digital content is fake and what's real, the only thing you know is real is when you're there in person. So the appetite for it isn't necessarily going away. I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing is the supply of choices is so high. So many people have started new events. So it feels like fewer people are going out when in fact they're just peanut butter spread across so many that are happening like within the same month. At some point people have to work,
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of work, do you find that leaders are more welcoming or maybe a little bit more hesitant to have fun at work? Not necessarily events, but maybe at work. Do you see a difference there?
Oh yeah, that's a hard one. This is the fun part about Club Ichi because yes, I grew up in corporate. I know the brand boundaries. I know the guidelines. I know the, oh my God, my people could never do that we always experienced. And so with Club Ichi, we can be those people that do the most ridiculous, insane, hold our conference sessions on an inflatable unicorn, knowing full well that nobody else would be like, oh, well, let's do that part of it. But it may make them think a little differently, like, well, maybe we don't actually have to do that session indoors. Maybe there's a garden and it could be a conversation and we could bring people out. So if we can kind of live in 2035, even if they still have to live in 2025, then we can pull them a little bit further and be a place for experimentation. Some of the stuff we do is just going to fail, and that's fine. We're playing with new technologies that are beta, that are not working perfectly, and that's okay. Like, you have to get customers somehow, and to see behind the scenes, like, we love those how the sausage is made behind the scenes experiences and the ridiculous stuff that's just fun to watch. Like, my ultimate bucket list item right now that I will make come true at some point is to go into the laundry facility of a giant hotel and run a sheet through the giant sheet ironer and see if I can do it without wrinkles. That sounds fun.
That's amazing. Surely somebody listening has contacts in the hotel industry, like, for sure. I'm curious, how did that come about? Like, how did
I don't know. I just saw it happen once, and I was like, "That looks fun." And then I was on a Virgin voyage, and I paid the $200 to do the behind the scenes tour of how the boat works. And they took us in the laundry facility, and there were two guys doing it. And I was like, "Can I do it?" And they're like, "No, you have to be certified." Like, what? So now it's just a thing because it's just right there. It's tantalizing,
Certified to run an iron. You're not qualified. Sorry.
I mean, it did look quite dangerous. Very hot. What if your finger got caught in there? So I get it, but at the same time,
we don't want you on one of those. Oh my gosh! Look what happened to her reels. That would be awful.
But that's the thing that we really love is, I think my journalism engineering idea of seeing how things work, I think as event professionals, we do that quite often too, because we are seeing it from the idea to the spreadsheet to the execution. And so to see how someone else is taking it through those concepts is really fun. We did an event a year or two ago in partnership with MGM where we took a group of people out to Las Vegas, which every event professional is like, you can't show me anything new in Las Vegas. I live there. We're like, haha, challenge accepted. So we worked with them to create this whole behind the scenes experience where we got to go to their prop and decor warehouse and see where all the stuff for every hotel and all the shows lives and how they craft these things. And they put us on kind of a brain scavenger hunt that we had to use what was there and make a pitch to the designers. We got to go eat in the Aria employee cafeteria and then see the uniform control center, how they get 9,000 uniforms pressed and ready every day for staff. And then to the Bellagio pump room and meet with the divers that fix the pumps who are ex-Navy SEAL. Like, it was just the coolest thing. Everybody's like, okay, you win. You showed me something I'd never seen in Vegas
before. Check. I can check that off my list now. I love that. And I can imagine that people just want to come to your events because it's fun, because it's engaging, because it's playful, it's exciting, and it's different, and it's new. Why isn't everybody calling you yet? Like, I don't get it.
They're starting to. I think it's just a brand awareness thing. We're new. We just launched this thing in March of 23, and we already have 11,000 people that are following us and on the mailing lists, and starting to join. And we really just turned on that insider membership last year. I guess it's been a year and a half now, and to have 425 people saying "shut up and take my money" has been pretty exciting, right? So now it's just, what can we do to make sure that we are providing the value they're seeking, and then also keeping the conversations balanced and helpful and not salesy. Although we know that it's a place where sales happen, because business is personal, and relationships can transcend business, but it is all about everybody doing business together. But it's also not a marketplace. You can't just be like, here's my membership, where are my leads? That's not how this works. This is definitely a give first type of experience. And our members are real protective of that, which is super cool.
I'll speak globally. Like, I don't think that concept works anymore anywhere. Like, it's all relationship based, just from my experience and from what I've seen, that the people that are willing to share your information out and help you grow more organically, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, I think the real goal is, who can you meet who's willing to say your name when you're not in the room? And that's the environment we want to create. And a lot of the conferences that, even the ones that I go to, it's still keynote, breakout, expo. The coffee break is an afterthought. They give you 15 minutes to not only go to the bathroom, but check your email and grab that cup of coffee or water and then get back into the room. And so where do you network? Oh, at the party where the music's too loud and the cheese cubes are in the corner and you can't actually talk to each other. And then you're doing more transactional networking than you are, oh, what problems do you have and who can I connect you with? There just isn't that space for that. Yeah. We're finally, after years of shouting that from the rooftops, we're finally starting to see the conferences embrace the idea of roundtables and think tanks and facilitated conversations. And it's hard because those don't scale. They are small, intimate moments that you can put in an event, but still just trying, it changes everything.
It's something. And I think, or I can imagine, the associates that are attending the event really appreciate that, because they're being given that time where they're not rushing from point A to point B. They're not out of the bathroom, washing their hands, trying to talk to people. I think it's important that we have those interactions, and like you said, that feeling connected.
I think, and more than ever, just anchoring back on the human part, because we've been doing these spontaneous think tanks. The way they work is we use these big old sticky notes and we ask people, what challenge are you trying to solve? And we fill what we call the wall of woes with everybody's problems. Mm-hmm. And then we ask people, look at that wall of woes, and if you've solved one of those, write your name on it. And then we'll craft the sessions by saying, hey, Bob solved this. Bob, would you lead a conversation in how you did that? And so the whole thing gets built organically on site. And over the years, hundreds of people have said, you should do this with technology. Why don't you ask this on the Ridge forum? We could do an AI matchmaking app for you. I'm like, no. This is like, people just want to organically connect and be like, oh my gosh, I have that same problem. What are you doing about it? Oh, let's talk about that and bring it to life.
Yeah, just being seen and heard is really important to most people. Almost, I'd say everybody at the end of the day. So what core values are most important in shaping Club Ichi?
For me personally, it's curiosity. Like, I'm always just interested in people's stories, or how it's made, or what could be done with that, or what the next opportunity is, or who I can connect somebody with somebody else. And I think that drives most of it. I think the other really big one is fun. If it's not fun, why are we doing it? Nicole, my co-founder, it's our favorite game to play, as it'd be really fun. And just like on top of that, like, if resources were no object, what would we do? Oh my gosh, well, we would put a giant ball pit on the, what are they called, the salt flats in Argentina, and see that drone shot like that would be amazing, so
yeah, I love that. No budget, just out of the box thinking, because who's to say that at some point that may not be out of the budget anymore? That may be something that you can do. And
absolutely, or it just, at least, again, it's the thought of that living in 2035, and we have to be stuck here, and we have these parameters, and you're told no so much. How can you think out here for a minute just to pull you a little bit outside of those boundaries and make people think crazy? I did an event for one of the companies I worked at where the brand guidelines they were extremely brutal. You had to sit within this box, and you could not do this, that, and the other. And so I was like, okay, well, here's a crazy question. What if we did the whole event and never put our brand on it? Then I'm not confined by the brand guidelines, and people are going to know where they are because it's in the middle of that company's actual conference. We're just taking over a restaurant and doing our thing. And it was amazing. Blew everybody away. We had the best time ever, and got a slap on the wrist maybe, but it was so fun.
Well, and when the employees or associates, again, come back to the people that plan for you guys to organize it and give you rave reviews, they're going to wonder, why were we trying to restrict all that anyway? Why was that absolutely not? And yes, brain is important, but ugh, yeah.
100% agree with all of those things.
Yes.
When you're using it and you follow brain guidelines, but what sometimes
I think that's amazing. Yeah, you're like, we don't need to use the brain. People know where they are.
People know where they are.
Exactly. I love that. So when you face challenges at work similar to that, how do you approach problem solving? Like, it sounds like you and Nicole just kind of discuss back and forth, tossing ideas. Is there a different?
Absolutely. We have a big giant whiteboard that we got for $75 off of a retired teacher. So like, it's freaking huge, and that is where our brain goes. So I like to say that people are either waffle brained or spaghetti brained. And if you're waffle brained, you have the syrup in one square at a time. And if you're spaghetti brained, you got the sauce on every noodle. And so during those brainstorming sessions, we got the sauce on every wall. And it's just throwing it out there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that it's understanding the parameters, knowing the parameters. I'm the pragmatic one, so I'm always like, you know, when an idea gets too big. But it's like, okay, you got to let that go for a few minutes and then see how we can work it back. That's Nicole's favorite term. Let's work it backwards. If we need this, then So that's the thing. But I think, you know, when you're in a corporate environment and you're trying to ideate and you're trying to get approval for things, there's definitely a much more structured way to do it. It probably took me 20 years of my career to attempt forgiveness, not permission. I was very permission driven. And so to even finally get to the place where I felt like I had enough respect, trust, and authority to be like, just try it. We'll see. I mean, people get mad, but they'll get mad at me. You guys are all safe. And I can kind of lead with that. Like, if I get fired, I get fired. But if we don't try it, we'll never know.
Very courageous.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do, though.
And rewarding, right? I mean,
you've got rewarding.
Yeah, you've gotten the results. I love that. I mean, just so many people are stuck in this. We have to work. It can't be fun. We have to stay in these boxes and these walls. And I'm just like, no, we don't. Like, there's been so much science that has said if we play at work, we're going to be more engaged. We're going to be more productive. We're going to stick around longer.
Yes.
It's crazy. So I love
Well, and I think, you know, we talk about play and it comes right into engagement. We've done a lot of work around engagement, and there's the cognitive, behavioral, and emotional engagement. And so cognitive, getting people to learn something, behavioral, getting people to do something, but emotional, getting people to actually feel something. And that's what's going to connect them with what you're doing. So if you can add that element of play into the content that you're trying to do or into the experience so that people let their guard down and don't feel like they have to be super prim and proper. I mean, you know, it's that moment in church when somebody lets the, you know, fart go. Like, those are the moments that you remember, that you laugh so much about. It's crazy, right?
We've all been there. We get it, right? So, team collaboration. You said that you and Nicole work really well together. Do you have other people on your team that attend the events and help you plan, or do you just kind of...
We do,
good.
Yeah. So we've got our head of events now, David T. Stevens. We've got a community manager, Stephanie Taylor. So we've added these right people to the team, and it's taken some trial and error, you know, to get here. And then the community is just so giving that when we need something, we can post it in the Slack channel. And like I have something coming up next week, and one of the folks that we're working with said, I need 20 volunteers to do this thing. And so I dropped in the Slack channel, and boom, I got 27 immediately. So people just want to help and want to share. And we put together this little advisory council every quarter where we just create a locked Slack channel and put 15 to 20 people in there. So when we have ideas, we can throw it out and we'd be like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't love. We did that last quarter with just trying to settle on official wording for mission and vision and values. And they were real clear. They're like, that doesn't sound like you. That sounds really boring. And that doesn't represent the way that you come to life. And so it's helpful to have that sounding board.
Yeah, that's amazing. It probably sometimes also reinforces decisions and choices that you want to make. Having their buy-in and their backing of you is just kind of like, okay, we're on the right track. I get that.
It's a fine line, though, because what's that old Henry Ford thing? Like, if I asked my customers what they want, they'd say faster horses. So you definitely have to kind of be like, okay, well, here's what they want, but here's what they need, and be intuitive enough and see what's going on in the world to know how far you can push people to do really fun things.
Has there been, I mean, obviously Dell World was huge, an accomplishment, but outside of that, have there been any events that you're like, that was amazing, I'm so glad we did that, or maybe an activity during one of the events that you were just like, yes, that nailed it? Like, are there any?
Chinese secret family is the biggest one that stands out. I mean, how do you charter a plane and not tell anybody that you're doing this? For like from the moment we site visited the location to the secret we had to keep for an entire year, and that secret, like at least we could tell people we were chartering a plane, but we couldn't tell them anything else. And it was a very small circle of people who knew about it. And to see that, I mean, there were multiple times we almost canceled the thing. We had, I think it was maybe 3 days before we were supposed to get on the plane to get there when the venue called us and said, "Where's our money? We wired $45,000 to you." And they're like, "Nope, you didn't. And we're going to cancel everything unless you wire it to us right now." Turns out, wire fraud. Somebody had gotten into the emails, said, "Oh, we're changing the bank account." Our accounting person changed it and sent it. Gone, $45,000, poof, into thin air.
I like that makes me want to pass out. I'm like, oh. And I used to work in cybersecurity, so I'm just like, no, like, oh, I'm so,
I mean, and it was like, even the FBI was like, this was a really sophisticated way for them to go about it. So, like, I mean, there were signs we should have known, but you don't know. You're in the midst of all this. So, anyway, So, I think that moment that we're able to reveal, we had this rolled out banner that was like, boom, and the whole crowd was like, where are we going? It's like, boom, Tuscany. Like, those are the moments. It's funny, Nicole always says that was actually the moment that made her have a heart attack, because the moment we dropped that banner and we, the expectation of people being like, ah, didn't happen, because people were standing there and they're looking at it and they're just trying to take in what just happened and where they're going and who they need to call and tell and how they're going to tell their spouse and like all these things. And so it was just like this frozen moment. And then finally it kind of like sunk in. Everybody's
like, yay! Oh. Exactly. And you're like, wait, hurry up, guys, process quicker, please. Exactly. I need to know. Yeah, that's
so we're stealing ourselves from when that happens again this next time.
Well, at some point, I'm imagining your Club Ichi team reversing the roles and doing that to you and Nicole. And then you'd be like, yeah, that's amazing.
Yes. Wouldn't that be fun if we actually got to be surprised on our very own trip? That would be amazing.
I don't know how. Yeah, I'll think on that one.
Okay.
Fun for your team. I mean, it sounds like y'all have fun every day, so there's not any extra things that you bring in. But, maybe when workload is high and people are getting stressed, how do you invite fun into the workplace?
It's funny. I just saw this meme the other day that is so right, where it's the little 4-up cartoon, and it's like, I just turned my hobby into my job. That's amazing. What do you do for fun?
Nothing. Right. Eyes going back and forth. Yeah.
We're still a little bit on that, where it's like, it's hard because the families don't really understand why we work all the time. You're working all the time. Like, but it doesn't feel like work. Like, it's still, other than there's that Mark Cuban saying that's entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40. So it's a little bit of that, but it's also like when it stops being fun, then we have a problem.
Absolutely.
And it was about this time last year that I had reached out to my dad for some business advice as we're trying to figure this thing out. He's like, there's only 2 rules in business: make money, have fun. And I was like, well, we're having fun. He goes, then you have a hobby. Add the money part, and then you'll have a business.
That's accurate. I respect that.
Well, we really started this business to write off alcohol and fly business class. So, we're on our way. We're writing off alcohol. So we got to work on the next part.
Sign me up. Sign me up. I love that. I told my husband my rich life is traveling in business or first class. And he was like, looked at me like, I'm like, that's just what I want. Like, that's fine. If you want to go sit and coach, it's cool. I'm fine sitting up. But I want to earn the privilege to sit up there. I feel that's important to me. I want the extra leg space.
It's funny because my 17-year-old, he came home the other day and he was just talking about like getting rich and I want to be a billionaire. And I'm like, okay, but why? What would that change for you that you don't have right now? What is the billionaire dream for you? Because we all think that when we're young, and then you start to look around. You're like, okay, I have an amazing house, I have an amazing family, my car still works, I have all the things. So if I had just this much more, what would I do? Oh, I'd add those patio lights in the backyard and make it feel like a whatever. I would re-stretch the carpet upstairs because I've been putting that off for 4 years. There's these little things. And so he was like, well, I think it's just the ability to say yes to anything without ever having to think about it. I'm like, okay. So now let's talk about just the freedom of choice you'd have when you have this much money. Is it really $1 billion you need to feel that way? Or what do we need? So it's kind of fun to have those conversations.
That's awesome. Good for you for kind of bringing it in and saying, let's talk about this a little bit more. What does this look like to you? And
I mean, I'm thrilled for him to be a billionaire. I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just trying to, make sure that he has a path toward it and doesn't just think he can be a YouTuber.
Yeah, well, that too. That reminds, it was a small sidetrack, but still, when my kids were younger and they came home with like a 75, they were like, I said, are you okay with this? Well, yeah, I guess. And I was like, well, okay, but just so you know, a grade of 75 average does not lead to this lifestyle that we have right now. We can't go out to eat. You know, we wouldn't be able to go out to eat all the time. We couldn't do summer camps. And it was kind of that level set of, you know, what are you wanting? If 75 is really okay, like you're leaving. And that was at the time, I don't know what, I live in Frisco, Texas, just north of Dallas. And the Texas schools, they were allowing the kids to retake tests to get up to a score of 100. And I'm like, plus, you're never going to have that ability the rest of your life. So use it now, please. Get those hundreds, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Back on track, back on fun
okay.
at work. I'm sorry. Okay.
Focus.
But exactly. But it's fun. So I'll take it. Can kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but maybe share a story of an unexpected challenge and how you guys overcame that, other than the $45,000 just missing. I mean, that was obviously, we'll send it right now. Sorry about that.
Sorry, we'll just be out an extra 45K. Totally cool.
Not cool.
I think, you know, I have a million unexpected challenges. I mean, one of our Dell World ones, I think it was 2013-ish or so, we had Bill Clinton as our keynote speaker, and we had been warned that he's traditionally not on time for his keynotes. And so no one believes it. Like, yeah, but we paid him. Like, he's totally going to be on time. But no, he was an hour late. And when you have, 6,000 people at your conference and your keynote's an hour late, and then he's just, if you've ever met him, he's like this amazing character. He's just like got this aura about him. And so, when he comes in, we're like, we're just going to have him do the keynote and then we'll do his meet and greet afterwards. Like, nope. That's not how he works. He gets his energy from the people. So yes, you're going to delay everything, but he's going to do that first, and then he'll go on stage. And and it was freaking magical and absolutely unbelievable conversation and all that. But yeah, it was a little kind of expected but unexpected, because the expected part, because we had been warned, we had set up a plan for it. Instead of normally you would do the keynote and then into the breakout sessions and then, expo lunch, whatever, we had put it so that in the event that was later, we had things we could move around. So it was right into the expo hall so that we could kind of switch things around. We had the team armed with, the walkie-talkies to know what to do. We had the signs that were ready. All we needed to do was get them printed with exactly the new time that it was going to happen and have everybody disperse and do it. So we just had to kind of call that into action and make it happen. But so kind of Boy Scout preparedness, but still unexpected. Still was just like, really?
You and I, we haven't talked about this at all, but I am a certified Clifton Strengths coach. Have you ever taken the assessment?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm imagining you are probably really high woo and probably high arranger. Am I right? Similar, maybe? Yeah. Having the ability to take a hit to the schedule and go, that's okay, we can do this, and flip, 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 and being like, okay, done. Not everybody can do that. So to have that ability is props to you.
Yeah, but I think that, the people that take on leadership positions, especially in events, you have to have that. If you're a hair on fire, running around like a crazy person all the time, then you are not going to succeed. You're just going to cause yourself huge burnout.
Right, yeah, or a heart attack, one of the two.
Exactly. But then there's, again, a fine line for that, because I have been told, you don't actually look like you have a sense of urgency around this problem. I'm like, okay. That's fair, because I actually do, but I also have to instill a sense of calm in everyone around me. But I can see your point. I maybe need to yell a little louder.
Gotcha. Okay. So, what's a little fact about Liz that maybe many people don't know that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, I think probably a lot of people know this, but I always go back to space camp. I was a space camper from 4th grade all the way through high school, and then I went back in college to be a camp counselor there. My kids have now gone to space camp. My daughter's going next week again, and I think that as weird and kind of left of center that sounds, is that I think that it really shaped my experiential brain of how I like to do events, because the way they do space camp is this fully immersive experience where you're training like an astronaut. You're sitting in lectures and classes, especially if you get into the high school age, and you're learning from former astronauts and you're learning from people. And it's like, my daughter's like, I don't know if I want to go back. There's a lot of school. I'm like, okay, but think about this. Yeah. When you are interested in this and you're just eating it up, right? You're listening to these incredible people, and then you get to go apply it in the simulation. And like, that's how I think of events. How can you take the learning part, make it interesting to people, and then give them an opportunity to go use their hands and go put something together? And so I kind of carry that with me when I think about designing things.
I love it. Speaking of using your hands to create things, when was the last time you played with Legos?
Oh, well, let's see. Probably been 2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
fairly recent.
Oh,
Fabulous.
yeah. Yeah, no, we have a ginormous, probably thousands of dollars of Legos in our house.
Love it. I'll be happy to send you a kit that I use when I'm introducing Lego Series Play to fellow
Yeah.
people, because it's a different kit. It drives people with OCD crazy because there's not an equal number of all the pieces. It's
Yeah.
just
Oh.
random pieces. But it's fun. I'll send it to you.
Have you ever, there's a game, I think it's called Creationary or something like that, that is,
I
it's
have
all
not.
based on Legos, and it's kind of like
Nice.
Telestrations or Pictionary, but it's with
Oh,
Legos. And so you draw a card, and only you know what the card is, and you have to create it with all these random Lego pieces, and other people have to guess what they think it is.
I've
It's
never,
just such a fun game.
I've never, like, is it in stores or
Yeah,
online? Or,
I probably bought it on
creational?
Amazon or something, but
I'll
yes,
look it up.
so freaking fun.
I love Legos. It's fun.
I mean, it's just like laying at the pool and looking at the clouds and trying to determine what that shape is. Is that a dragon? Is it a, whatever? So that's how we are with the Legos. Like,
I
well,
love it. I think
don't
it's
know.
great. And one last question. You have a whole toolbox of things that you've accumulated over your years of working with people, for people, etc. If you were to give our guests one tip, one idea, one thing to take away from today, what would that be?
I think it's that focus on engagement, because that's the number one question we get is, how do I make my event more engaging? Like, well, first of all, you need to define what you mean by engagement, because if you mean people not looking at their cell phones, that's very different than people sharing something on social media, which is very different from what I call ROE, return on ego, which is when the executive says people looked happy. So define what you're trying to accomplish, and then take that framework of cognitive, behavioral, or emotional, and figure out how are you trying to engage, and then how are you measuring that so that you can tie it to it. Because if it is truly, we just want people to talk about it all over social media and go crazy viral, that's a very different thing that you're building on site than having your sales team learn a new product so that they can go sell it better.
Yeah.
So I think that's my key, is to just don't just willy-nilly say drive engagement. It's think about it a little bit more, be a little more strategic about it.
Right. Nail down exactly what that looks like to you, because it's going to be different for everybody. That's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Liz, this has been such a pleasure. Liz Lathan, tell us how our guests can find you and Club Ichi.
Sure. Well, I kind of live and breathe on LinkedIn, so definitely find me there. It's Liz Lathan. And then Club Ichi is weareichi.com. You can come hang out with us, and we do stuff online multiple times a month, and we're in person almost once a month, somewhere close to that. We have the Slack channel that's always on. We have ridiculous trips. We have ridiculous fun, and just come hang with us.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for Play for Performance and having Liz Lathan with us today. Have a great one. See you soon.
The pleasure was mine. Thanks.
Yay! That's a wrap on another episode of Play for Performance. I hope today's conversation sparked some ideas for how you can bring more joy and engagement into your workplace. Remember, transforming workplace culture doesn't happen overnight, but every small step toward play and connection makes a difference. Try one thing we discussed today, even something small, and see what happens. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a little more play in their professional life. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations with incredible guests who are changing the game of workplace engagement. Have a guest suggestion or want to share your own play at work story? Reach out to me at Jolynn and elevateyourtalent.co, or find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you. Until next week, keep playing, keep performing, and remember, work doesn't have to be taken seriously to be serious. This has been Play for Performance. I'm Jolynn Ledgerwood, and I'll see you next time.